Call this meeting to order. Tonight, we're going to be led in the pledge by Mr. Gary Carty. Thank you, Mr. Carty. I'd like to welcome everyone tonight to a work session. As most of you probably already looked at your agendas, we've got quite a bit of stuff on the agenda for this week. So, and also you got your folders on your desk also. There's a lot of information. Some of it we'll be going over tonight. So, this time I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Odom and we'll get through everything.
Okay, I guess your first is your consent agenda. We're at the time of year where we're now having contracts for the next year. You know, you're kind of familiar with this. You're bidding things for classroom furniture, for technology needs for the next year. Special ed is bidding services and that sort of thing. So you want to just see if anybody wants to pull something out or talk about one of those? There's more than usual. We used almost all letters of the alphabet, if you notice this time.
Mr. Odom, the surplus property, that's on the web. That's on a website with the county. Is that on County General?
That is the surplus. Now, this surplus property is the property behind Stewartsboro, the little land that the fellow offered to purchase from us that we're not using, and the map and all is in the index.
Yes, sir.
What was the gentleman's name? I'm forgetting.
Mr. Royal that made contact with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Royal, okay.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Mr. Odom, on the decor, furniture, and service lines, why was it rejected?
Price.
Price?
That was the one at Holloway. That one was rejected because of price. They thought that they would have to maybe take out some of the things and then rebid it to get a little better price. We run into that with walking tracks and other things from time to time. If they seem to be a little out of line or something, we'll reject and rebid.
Anyone else? We'll skip 6, 7, 8. We recognize cheerleaders tomorrow night.
We will. Let me say one thing about K. I meant to, and there's the item K, which is the Red Cross did contact us about some areas, and so if you approve the concept tomorrow evening, we'll get with Red Cross and try to decide so that there's some areas in Laverne and Smyrna and places around it in case of disaster or something they would like to use our facilities. But we're just, if you approve the concept, we need to get with them and talk more about which schools would be the ones to designate as those sites. That's the purpose for that.
All right, number 10, old business.
Number 10 is the Square for credit card payments. You remember we talked about a pilot project at Eagleville School and asked Mr. Sandvig to come up with some requirements for accounting, and this is what we have. Eagleville School has requested permission to pilot the use of Square credit card devices so that credit cards can be used for payments at athletic events and the plant sale. The plant sale in spring athletics will allow evaluation of devices before football starts. These devices are small Square credit card readers that can be attached to an iPhone or an iPad. Okay, here's required operational accounting process for the Square credit card pilot program at Eagleville. Number 1. Only Rutherford County Board of Education or school-owned iPods or iPhones will be used with the Square credit card devices. Number 2, only Board of Education employees will process Square credit card purchases. Number 3, ticket reconciliation will follow the state accounting manual, and a separate ticket reconciliation form will be used for credit card ticket sales. A separate roll of tickets will be used for Square credit card purchases. The school shall perform a timely reconciliation of credit card deposits to reports. Gross revenues must be recorded. The credit card processing fee will be recorded as a separate expenditure. Chargebacks will be evaluated. If they become a problem, we will look at use of a second bank account for both the credit card payments and any related chargebacks. The time frame for this pilot is spring activities through the 2014-2015 basketball season. Our auditors have approved this pilot. The charge for service is 2.75% for each transaction. So the motion will be to approve Eagleville Schools' pilot use of Square credit card devices through the 2014-15 basketball season, and to approve the operation and accounting process for Square credit card use so that credit cards can be used for payments to athletic events and the plant sale as presented.
I guess question I have for Mr. Sandvig, this right here, you'll be overseeing it, I take it, correct? Okay. So you'll look after, say after the spring season and football season, see how it's all.
And for Mr. Eak's concern at our previous meeting, Mr. Tall had talked to one vendor who uses this device, and I was in a shop and talked to another vendor. Neither one had chargebacks to that point. So that's why we're thinking, try it. If it becomes a problem, then the possibility of using a second account.
So you'll be the one monitoring
Yes,
all that, okay. Anybody else?
I think it's a really excellent improvement on what was initially a pretty good idea, and now we've got some, good structure around it, and I feel real confident about moving forward with it.
Anybody else? Number 11, Mr. O.
Number 11 is courses offered for credit in grades 9 through 12. Board of Education Policy 4.201 states in part, a listing of courses offered for credit in grades 9 through 12 will be approved annually by the board. And the motion is to recommend approval. Motion to approve the list of courses for credit in Rutherford County grades 9 through 12 for 2014-2015 as presented. This would be state courses that's listed already by the state and special courses that we may have, state may have given approval for over several years actually.
Comment? Number 12.
Number 12 is summer school grades 6 through 12. The instruction department is requesting approval for the 2014 summer school calendar. Plans are for middle and high school course offerings. Middle school sites will be at Laverne Middle and Oakland Middle, and the high school site will be Blackman High. Middle school and high school offerings will be available during the first semester from June the 2nd through June 26, 2014. The high school only second semester is scheduled from June 30th through July 25th, 2014. Transportation services are not provided. Tuition will remain at $100 for the middle school and $100 per 1/2 credit for high school and $200 for driver's education. And the driver's education was higher, if you remember, because of insurance requirements and things that we had to do. Just as a reminder. Recommend approval. Motion to approve the instruction department's request for summer school sites and calendar as presented. We used to have 2 high school sites. The numbers are down now because of the 7-period day. Additional, we had the online courses offered this year. With the night courses, we think one site somewhat in the middle between the two would suffice for this year.
We only had one site last
That-
summer.
we- that's right, we did.
We had no problem.
That's right.
Anybody else? 13.
13, this is facilities. We have a couple of facilities. The first one is Oakland High School softball training building. Mr. Bill Spurlock has submitted a request from the Oakland High School Softball Booster Club to construct a softball training facility on his campus. The 60 feet by 100 feet by 14 feet building will consist of a pre-engineered metal building constructed on a concrete slab with exterior to match existing buildings. The building will be constructed at no cost to the Rutherford County School Board and funded by the Oakland High School Softball Booster Club. The Booster Club will be responsible for compliance with all codes and for the purchase of all building permits. Rutherford County Schools Engineering Department has been involved with this project from the beginning and sees no conflicts. There are no gender equity issues. Recommend approval. Motion to approve construction of a softball training facility at Oakland High School as presented at no cost to the Rutherford County School Board.
Comments? All right, B.
B is from Stewart's Creek Middle School, a soccer storage building. Mr. Creasy, principal of Stewart's Creek Middle School, has requested permission to construct a metal storage building at the end of the soccer field inside the fence. The building will be 20 feet by 28 feet metal structure on a concrete slab and house soccer equipment and constructed of a color that matches other on-site school facilities. Stewart's Creek High School and Stewart's Creek Middle School will share the cost of the building, and there will be no cost to the Rutherford County School Board, and there is no gender equity issue. The motion is recommend approval. Motion to approve the construction of a 20 feet by 28 feet metal storage building at Stewart's Creek School Complex at the soccer field as presented at no cost to the Rutherford County School Board.
Everybody good? All right, 14, I believe there's, you want Mr. Sandvig to?
Mr. Sandvy's going to step up. Would you like for me to read this, or you want to kind of read it as you go through, or how would you rather handle this?
Whatever you think, Mr. Odom.
Okay, well, come on up to the podium. A is a teacher retirement update for information on, remember the state controls this, basically, but you may have questions, so we need to do this. The A is, state law will put all new teachers in TCRS's, the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System, new hybrid pension plan. Part of this hybrid requirement plan is a traditional defined benefit pension. The other part is a defined contribution plan, which uses the state's 401k plan. The current TCRS plan is 100% defined benefit. In the hybrid TCRS plan, a teacher can retire at age 65 with 5 years of service or when age and years of service equal 90. The hybrid defined benefit plan, part of the plan, will be funded with the same 5% teacher payroll deduction that teachers currently make. Rutherford County Schools will make the 4% employer contribution. A 9% total will go to the defined benefit part of the plan. The hybrid defined contribution of the 401k portion will be funded by a 5% employer contribution by Rutherford County Schools. The law requires that our new teachers be auto-enrolled with a 2% employee contribution to the 401k plan. Our teachers can opt out of the 2% automatic employee contribution. Ideally, a 7% total will go to the defined contribution part of the plan. The state's example shows that a teacher who retires after 30 years could receive a retirement benefit greater than the current TCRS teacher's plan if their 401k plan averages 6% or more. The teacher has contributed his or her 2% contribution to the plan. This example is no guarantee. This 6% rate assumption is reasonable when we look back 30 years to 1984. The hybrid plan transfers a portion of the investment risk from the state to the teacher. Current employees who are on TCRS as of June 30, 2014 will stay in the legacy TCRS plan. As of July 1, 2014, new teachers will automatically be placed in the hybrid TCRS plan. However, if we hire someone who already has an active TCRS legacy plan account, that new employee will stay in the legacy plan. The state's current 401k provider is Great West. The state will be issuing another RFP, request for proposal, for retirement services. Jeff, why don't you cover number A and then we'll talk about B.
Oh, okay. This one, we really have no control over. our employer contribution, starting July 1 to the legacy plan will be 9.04%. It's currently 8.88. When I first came here, we had a couple of years where it was under 4%. It steadily increased, which is what led the state to move this way to lessen the employer's risk and to pass some of that risk in the defined contribution part to the employees. We will probably have, I'd say, 7 to 8% of our teachers next year will come into this plan. New teachers, and without opening a school, it might be a little difficult to say, but we 10 to 12% turnover in total numbers hired. Some of those are people who we're just going to have for a brief period as interims, all that, but we will have people in this plan starting with July, well, in it, anyone who's hired after July 1st. I will be asking for another accounting position for this and some of the other payroll changes that we're going to have to handle. As far as working with the changes, it will be dealing with the 401k issues. I currently handle all of our 403b issues. I don't have the time to, as that expands with this group. And some other changes that are coming about from the state. I do want to emphasize on that state example that it shows that you could come out better. That is, though, with assuming the teacher is contributing 7% rather than the 5% in the legacy plan.
Is this the example there, page one? You want to tell them to look at
The
that?
3 sheets that are stapled together, there's one that has yellow and green and pink highlighting on it. The first page is from the state example that they gave out. They used a $50,000 salary, and with the employee putting 2% in the defined contribution. Again, the column with the green heading shows about 10% higher pension, but that is largely because it's predicated on the employee contributing 2% more of his or her pay into the plan over this period. The 2 columns that aren't highlighted just show there are 2 different components to this hybrid. There's the new defined benefit and the new defined contribution. Roll them together, and that's what shows in the green column. And I'm showing the state's example. I just copied it from theirs. I am not, promising or anything, but it is an example they used. Their assumptions were fairly reasonable based on the last 30 years. The first line that has pink on it, this is the big change. Our current multiplier is 1.575%. In the new defined benefit portion, it is 1%. It's flat, basically. So anyway, but it takes your highest 5 years of compensation, and that is not necessarily your last 5 years, and runs that through the formula. Just teachers we can't do anything about, just this is an update of where we will be. And it won't have any impact on next year's budget. I think their actuarial projections for the legacy plan show our current 9.04 continuing to rise. So that's, even though right now the 2 costs to us as an employer will be very close, I think the state is planning on the legacy piece still continuing to rise. So that's where we will see some savings down the road. Any questions about the teacher plan? Yes.
Great West is going to manage the mutual funds.
Yes, sir.
For the 401K. I think we asked the last time, and I don't know that you had that information, but do we know how it's performed? I know what they told
They
us.
have a lot of options, kind of like Ballot does. And the default will be one of those kind of, I always draw a blank on the term, the projected retirement date funds. So if you're 40, they would put you in a fund that would mature roughly 25 years from now, or they would be tinkering with the investment mix, moving more into bonds as you got closer to the.
So is each certified employee going to choose their
They have-
funds,
They have an option to, yes, sir,
or they can just go with?
or go with that default.
So Great West is going to have to make a time to meet.
Yes, sir. Yeah. This is a huge change for them. But it will be a gradual, shift over, and our core group of teachers, until we get to people who are people who have, say, 5 to 10 years of experience now, most of them tend to stick around, and until they retire, we're going to have a core group that's going to be in the legacy plan. So that'll be a fairly
Well,
slow change.
I just hope that Great West has the manpower and
Yes.
the know-how to advise our certified employees, with proper numbers and accurate track record of
Right.
how the different funds have performed, whether they're aggressive or conservative or, that,
Yes.
but I'm concerned about that part of it.
Yes. Oh, I share, and I'm confident they have the knowledge. With this big a switch
Right.
over, it's more the manpower issue. that I
That's,
would-
and I meant to emphasize that more,
Right,
that they would have the patience and manpower and time
yes,
to thoroughly explain
right.
each fund, I
Yeah.
guess you
Yeah.
could say.
And they are going to allow hardship withdrawals, and I think loans. And that is one, I'm assuming that we here will be doing some of that paperwork. So that's, it's going to be a different game.
Mr. Sanders?
Yes, sir.
Is there any possibility that those who are currently in the legacy plan, with the evidence suggesting that we may have a higher yield from this hybrid plan, can you move from the legacy to the hybrid?
At present, you cannot. I mean, you could, of course, always, if you wanted to start a 2% deduction in our 403B plan, but you could probably do it in the state's 401K if you wanted to, if you were in the legacy plan.
Okay. My second question is, the 4% that the county is contributing, and am I reading that correctly, 4% or 5%?
We will be contributing 4% toward the defined benefit and 5% to the defined contribution, for a total of 9%.
Okay. The 5% that is based on a employee defined contribution, is it in any way, I'm not suggesting it should be, but is it in any way a matching that is reflective of their participation?
No, they can, initially, they are limited, they can only put 2%
Okay.
in, but there is no matching requirement. It is entirely optional. If they opt out of the 2%, they would still get the 5%.
And they still have to identify what to invest
Yes,
in.
sir.
So if they opt out of the program, they still have an obligation to make some recommendation as to what to do with the
Right.
money that we put in there.
Right.
Wow.
It is a major change. And we here cannot advise them.
We just can't.
Is this run by legislation? Or
Yes.
is this run by,
Legislation that passed last year, effective this July.
okay. I think they should have asked us about this one too.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Because as you all say, it is a huge change for our employees.
Yep.
Want to go to B now?
All right.
B is the VALIC 457B plan. The defined contribution of the TCRS New Hybrid Retirement Plan uses the state's 401K plan. This makes it necessary for us to re-examine our VALIC Supplemental Retirement Savings Plan. We are asking to add a VALIC 457B plan to the VALIC 403B plan we already have. Why? Because the state's 401K and our 403B plan share the same federal annual limit for combined 401K employee contributions and 403B contributions, $17,000 for employees under 50 and $23,000 for employees over 50. Number one, we as the employer of record are liable if one of our employees exceeds his or her contribution limit for the combined state 401K and Rutherford County School System 403B plans. We can manually monitor the 403B contribution limit when an employee is just making 403B contributions. Any employee whose Rutherford County School System 403B contribution form might put him or her over the limit is questioned and the form usually revised. We will be able to do the same monitoring of an employee's 401K contribution if the employee isn't making 403B contributions. Number four, it isn't feasible to manually monitor each employee's combined 401K and 403B limits. Our payroll system will not handle it. And number five, we can add a very similar 457B plan, supplemental retirement, that has its own separate federal annual limit contribution. The limit $17,500 for employees under 50 and $23,000 for employees over 50. Number six, initially teacher contributions to the state 401K plan will be limited to 2%. New teachers who want to save more than 2% in a supplemental retirement saving would use the 457B plan. Our 403B contract for supplemental retirement services was awarded to VALIC in 2008 and continues on a year-to-year basis. Our RFP, request for proposal, included a 457 plan option which has not been implemented. Our employees in the legacy TCRS plan would be able to participate in the 457B plan as well as the 403B plan, since the plans have separate contribution limits. Later this year, we will probably present a change to our 403B plan that will require our employees in the TCRS hybrid retirement plan to use our 457B plan instead of the 403B plan because of the contribution limit. And this one would have a motion. Recommend approval. Motion to approve the addition of the 457B supplemental retirement savings to our VALIC supplemental retirement plan as presented. Jeff, would you explain that to us? Is that
Yes.
page 2 in their
And
document?
that really is, it's the monitoring issue. Karen Ladd, who handles the payroll for our teachers, I give her some that she watches, and I keep lists of some others that I watch. When it's one deduction bucket, I can get an idea if someone's getting close to that limit, the 17,500 or the 23,000. For the new teachers, they will have a 401K, 2% unless they choose to stop it, and later the state anticipates raising that limit down the road. So they'll have some money in a 401K deduction, and the only way we could monitor it would be to add the two different payroll buckets together and make sure they're not in danger. I, every year, have 4 to 6 employees who would like to go over our contribution limits, who would like to save more. They're at a point maybe, often it's as they get close to retirement, but a spouse makes enough money, they make the decision, okay, we're going to sock away as much as we can in a tax-deferred plan until you retire. They haven't had an option before. The intent of this isn't to give them that option, it's to give an option to our people in the new hybrid plan who want to put more than 2%, or if they are getting closer to retirement and they want to put 23,000 in, they can put it in the 457 plan, and whatever they're putting in the state plan, we won't have to compute a total and keep them in compliance.
Will you still have to monitor the 403B?
Individually, we can do it. It's when having to go, we don't have anything we can run that would go in and add the two together and calculate for us. It would be a largely manual process for the 401K and 403B if we don't limit people to one or the other. And we just don't have the resources for that. You get into refunds, they get into penalties if it crosses a calendar year. Yeah. It's one of those things I watch very closely on those few people who are trying to hit that max.
So will you no longer allow 403B?
Any current employee, any current teacher can have 403B, and our classified staff can have 403B. But new hybrid plan employees, if they want something through us rather than through the state, would have to go into the 457B plan. It's to keep us in compliance.
That's everyone, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah. But then we would be able to address that group who want to save more than the 17.5. And again, we have some. We do.
Any other questions, comments? C.
C is, and this is one you're probably going to be most interested in. This is a classified staff retirement update. Last year, some Rutherford County Commissioners requested that the county look at changing the retirement plan for new employees. State law now allows local governments to choose a different TCRS retirement plan for new employees who are not teachers. The current legacy TCRS retirement plan, Rutherford County, is a non-contributory and has a 5-year vesting. The employer cost for 2014-15 will be 11.97%. Number two, the current legacy TCRS retirement plan with new employees contribute 2.5% or 5%, and with changing the vesting period to 10 years, employer cost for 2014-15 will be 9.47% or 6.97%. Number three, the 2012 alternate defined benefit TCRS plan. The employer cost is around 8.2%. We could remain non-contributory for new employees. The same 2014 hybrid TCRS pension plan that new teachers will be in, total employer cost would be 9%. New employees would contribute 5% or 7% like the teachers. The 2012 hybrid TCRS pension plan for local governments, the employer cost is between 5.9% and 10.9%. New employees could contribute between 0 and 5%, with other combinations possible. Number six, the 2012 100% defined contribution plan is a 401K or a 403B we would design with help from the state. After meeting with Mayor Burgess, Jeff Davidson, Lisa Nolan, and Sonia Stevenson, item 2 above, which is on tab 5, page 2, option 1A, with a 2.5% employee contribution and a 10-year vesting looks like a good option that still provides a solid pension benefit for our new employees and produces some of the savings mentioned by commissioners. The 2012 alternate benefit plan, TCRS plan, is still another good choice if the commission votes to change the plan. This plan could be kept non-contributory. The pension benefit is not as rich as the legacy TCRS retirement plan. If we wind up with this option, Mr. Sandvig would like to explore the possibility of an opt-out automatic 403B employee contribution of 2%, with the school board making a 1% match employer contribution for the employees who make the 2% contribution. The county commission will be the body that makes this decision. The school board can request the county commission to approve a different retirement plan for their classified staff than the one the county chooses. However, the county commission still has to approve a separate plan. Current classified employees who are members of TCRS as of June 30, 2014 will stay with the legacy TCRS plan and be non-contributory. If the commission makes a change as of July 1, 2014, new classified employees will automatically be placed in the revised or new TCRS plan approved by the commission. As with teachers, if we hire a classified employee who already has an active TCRS legacy plan account, that employee will stay in the legacy plan. Our purpose for putting this on here is, even though the commission chooses one of these, if you want to try to influence that or make a suggestion to them, this is why we bring it to you now. My guess is they will work on this probably sometime during their budget process.
And Ms.
is what we're
Stevenson
thinking.
told me she will be making a presentation to them at Steering, I believe, on March 3rd.
Okay, so it may be quicker.
Yeah.
So Jeff, do you want to kind of explain that in? Is that
Page
your third
2.
page, two?
Of this 3-page packet
Okay.
shows our current. Then in the green, if we change to, say, a 2.5% employee contribution with 10-year vesting. And then the 2 blue columns show that 2012 alternative defined plan. And my suggestion that we add a small defined contribution to that. But the numbers in option 1A, the column with the green heading, are probably going to be a little different, but we were unable to get updated numbers from TCRS at this point. An advantage, a plus with option 1, our current legacy, which we can stay on if the commission agrees to it. Or
Jeff?
1A is you have the higher multiplier.
Your color blindness is coming through. It's not a green, that's a,
Oh,
I don't know,
orange.
orange kind of.
Well.
Like, if y'all follow, it's the 1A if you look at the top, is what he said.
That's why I stick to blue and black usually. Okay, yeah, so, but they have that higher multiplier. That, the one I'm showing is option 2. It has a multiplier of 1.4. The new hybrid plan has a multiplier of 1.0, a much lower multiplier. So that is an advantage to the option 2. This example and the next page shows some of the other ones that I did not think y'all would be as interested in. I showed a $30,000 salary figure rather than the 50 on the teacher page. And that's one reason the numbers are so different. But, vesting changes, early regular retirement, also an additional advantage to our current legacy or the legacy in option 1A if we were, went contributory to some degree. It is still, you are vested at 60 or 30 years of service. Because with a hybrid plan, that goes up. It requires more. And as you can see here in the blue column, option 2, that requires 65 invested or the rule of 90, where your years of service and your age have to equal 90. So, but I did like, and this is just me kind of, I grew up working for a company where when I first started, you had to be 25 to join. But we were encouraged and had that matching incentive. And I like trying to put something like that in there for the employees who are willing to put 2% in.
I like the idea of it being a matching, though.
Oh, I do too.
As opposed to just an automatic.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Concern there is when we make an automatic contribution and yet they're not invested in it
Right.
at all, then what responsibility do they feel to choose carefully
Yeah.
in the investments?
Well, and hope, I think, this kind of a setup of a defined contribution plan has become so much more prevalent, I think people will adjust to that whether or not they contribute. I think that realization, I'm going to have to do something here. But there are different levels, and you can pay higher fees for more levels of management by the 401k company, or, you know, our 403b plan, the 457, whatever.
I noticed in a previous comment, I'm not sure exactly where it was, but there was, you could retire at 65 with 5 years of service and
Yes.
things of that nature. We mentioned here 10 years to be vested.
10 years to be vested.
Okay,
We'd have to look at that, yeah.
yeah,
We haven't gotten numbers back from TCRS on that piece yet, so yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
okay. All right.
And I think in our current plan, you would be fine. Option 1 or 1A, you'd be fine with 65 and 5.
And it may be that,
Right
you know,
now.
a 5-year investment, you know, with a minimum and then a graduated,
Yeah.
you know, for the next 5
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
maintain a 10-year perception, but have a 5-year threshold that would kind of match up with 5 years of contribution.
Yeah,
But it's a
Yeah.
detail to work
so,
on.
yeah.
What concerns me as a classified employee, to try to understand this and see
Yes.
some benefits, when you look at, after you work 30 years, and your pension estimate is $9,000 a year, if you do not contribute and try to communicate for people to understand that, they're thinking, hey, I'm gonna have retirement and all,
Yeah.
that's not a very good sum,
Yeah.
you know, to
Right.
look at, that's tough.
How does these plans compare to other school districts in surrounding counties?
They are, right now, I was told that no counties have switched, 1 or 2 municipalities may have switched. But these are the plans that are available to everyone. Now, Metro still has its own retirement plan, don't they?
As far as I know.
As
they
far as
still-
I know. So I don't know the details on that, but anyone who is in the state plan, we're probably very comparable. Several of the counties, I know Williamson County never went non-contributory for classified staff. I was able to lure an employee from there because of, since over that 5%, it was a 5% raise to him. But, so some of the counties never went non-contributory. We did it in lieu of a raise back in the 1980s. And have had it since then.
If you think, basically the mayor and the committee and all that, if I understand things right, the commission's gonna pick
Yes, sir.
which one. And they're recommending this, number 2 up here,
I don't know that they're recommending anything.
or they
This-
think it looks good.
Yeah, 1A, we talked pretty favorably about in our meeting.
I guess
possible.
from our standpoint, from board standpoint, school system standpoint, which one of these do you think will benefit our people the best?
I tend to think option 1A, if we are going to move and there is going to be a cut in what we pay as an employer, I think 1A. The legacy plan, they would still be in the legacy plan. They would be, my hope would be the 2.5% contributory. And there were concerns expressed at our meeting because yes, on the county side too, we have some employees who don't make the greatest salaries. And if we wound up, switch to a 5% deduction, pension deduction for them, it would be a major deal. So, we were speaking favorably of option 1A. I don't know where it will come out of.
But this 1A is gonna benefit our classified just like,
I think it is, if a change is made, I think it is the most favorable change. It costs new ones 2.5% contribution.
As a board, if the board's in agreement, I would think we would send what we think's best for our employees up to the committee, even though they're gonna make the choice, but,
Do we send that to the mayor, or do we do that through our committee members?
We could check on that. I am not sure. Health and Ed meets next Tuesday, and steering is the next Monday after that, I believe. So I don't know if Health and Ed would send it to steering or what, but we could find out tomorrow.
if it's possible, I'm speaking for myself, I'm not speaking for everybody else. I'd like for you to find that out.
Oh, I'll find that out tomorrow, absolutely, Mr. Hodge.
Because I would, just my own personal standpoint, I'd like to have some kind of, let them know how we feel.
Right.
Even though they're gonna make the decision, you know, for everyone. I just wanna try to watch out for our people also.
And I think we need to be on record saying that we think this is in the best interest of our people also, and that's our recommendation.
I agree. I think item C here should have a recommended motion in the agenda tomorrow night, so that we know that we have a resolution that the board is sending, and I wouldn't be averse to sending it to every county commissioner.
1A is the recommendation, is that what you think? You're most comfortable with?
I'm comfortable, personally, I'm comfortable with it. And a lot of it's going on Mr. Sandbeck's recommendation. I know he's gonna look at it for the interest of all our employees. So I'm good with 1A.
I am also.
Thank y'all.
Anybody else? Thanks, Mr. Sandbeck. Number 15, Mr. Odom.
Number 15 is proposed Rutherford County Schools 2015-2016 academic calendar. Recommend approval. Motion to approve Rutherford County Schools 2015-2016 academic calendar is presented. We have so many parents that want to know because of vacations and have to book out well in advance when they would be break, when spring break, fall break, to our advantage. We do not have in there at this time PLC days. We take 2 of our stockpile days and have 4 of the PLC days, but we do not have the state's testing calendar for that year at this time. So it bothers us a little bit to try to set some of those specific dates, but this will allow us to say when school starts, when school out, when is the fall break, when is the spring break, which is what most people need at this point, and then we'll add the others and bring it back to you when we get the other nuances that are associated with testing and all.
So what you say with the PLC days, they're not the October and February days that are to be determined?
Very likely, but there's several things that's going on with testing, like more than one assessment per year was some of the proposal, some the one big test at the end of the year. When you go, so you're going to be in the online version, so they no longer test for, like in the old TCAP, everybody took the math test on a specific day. Well, this one, because to let more students do it and use the online, they're taking testing 2 weeks or so. You got windows.
Spans of assessments now instead of a 1 week or a 2 week window. Some of the assessments will be for 4 continuous weeks. For example, 9th grade may be assessing this week, next week set up for 10th grade. Not everyone will be tested at the same time, but since the tests are a little longer than what's being proposed for that year, which is 2 years out, there has to be windows for grade levels because of the use of technology and other things along that line. But to answer your question about the half-day PLCs, they're typically September, November, last of January or first of February and a March day.
How many was that?
That's 4. It's either the last week in January or the first week in February. It depends on how that month falls. That year is an odd year. Easter's in March that year, so it makes it a little bit more difficult.
Am I not seeing those four, because I noticed 2 half-days identified in the calendar. Are we saying that there are 2 more yet to be placed into the calendar?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there are 2 placeholders and
There's
2,
4 that'll be identified. There'll be 4 additional days identified for half days.
good, okay.
Anybody
I
else?
hope I made myself clear.
Yep.
16.
16 is our new and revised policies. This is the adoption of policy 6.413, which is the prevention and treatment of sports-related concussions. The purpose of this adoption, the district required by state law to implement a policy regarding prevention and treatment of sports-related concussions. Recommend approval, motion to waive the second reading, the second meeting limitation to allow the board to take immediate action on the new policy as presented. And recommend approval, motion to approve the adoption of policy 6.413 as recommended by the policy committee.
I think this certainly is important enough to warrant that waiving of the second reading.
Anybody else? All right, general discussion, 17. If it's okay, I'll start this, and then, anybody else that wants to bring up something. In your folders here, you'll notice that, there's several bills that are dealing with education. Mr. Odom and I went to Franklin on Monday to a luncheon gathering, and when we got back, I asked Mr. Odom, we had some of these bills that they were looking at as a group, and I asked him to go through and go a little bit more in depth. And a lot of these bills, you know, my biggest concern here is a lot of these bills really, they could affect us. Basically, we're 7 voices, and I just want us to be active if we feel strongly on some of these bills, to let our legislation know how we feel. You know, because next year down the road, it's going to be, you know, I don't want the general public to basically, if you want to say, wake up and see some of this stuff that's been passed down there, and want to hold us accountable for it, for not standing up. So I know yesterday Mr. Holliday and Mr. Blair went down to Nashville to represent us. Mr. Blair on the not only TSBA but Tennessee side of it, Mr. Holliday on the federal side of it. So, and I'll let them elaborate a little bit more. You know, it just seems like right now with education, we've got an awful lot of stuff fighting, or an awful lot of legislators fighting against us, and pushing against us, and you know, just to be quite frank, it looks like a lot of them are trying to privatize education. I don't know any other way to put it. And if you get into a lot of these bills, you can see it firsthand. And where some of them come up with these bills, I'll never know. It's almost like they have a dream session or something. That because some of them, to be honest, I don't think they'll benefit anybody. And so I'm prepared, or what I'd like you to do is, I know it's hard to look through these things tonight, but I sent a copy, I believe Ms. Michael sent a copy, Mr. Reed and Ms. McLeod. Did y'all get a copy of these? And if y'all want to comment here in a minute on anything that you may have looked at, feel free to. Or I know you know, every board's different. Every, central office is different. What Mr. Oldham and I listened to was Williamson County, to where they actually have their attorney that goes through every bill down there. And I don't want Ms. McLeod, Mr. Reed think I'm proposing anything like that, but I'm just saying, that's how they picked up a lot of this stuff. So, if anybody has any comments on any of it,
Would you like for me to hit them just quickly, and then if you want to follow up on that or something?
Mr. Chairman, I was prepared to hand out a packet to each board member that I collected from our breakfast with the legislators yesterday morning, but if you would rather I do that this evening and give them an opportunity to look at, Monday night, we vetted 79, I believe it was 79 bills pertaining to education, and the TSBA board came up with a list of those that we favored, that we opposed, and felt like that we didn't need to take any action on. So I can give that to the board members tonight, and then we could discuss it further tomorrow if you would like to.
I'm in favor. My biggest concern is, I know probably within the last 2 months, we sent a couple resolutions down to Nashville. I'm not aware of anybody receiving any feedback on it. I didn't get any. You know, so I guess where I'm going with this is if a lot of this stuff's going to be voted on fairly quickly, because I figure they'll be done in April, sometime like that. So if we're going to do anything on any of these, or any you have, we need to get Mr. Reed, if we're going to send any resolutions, let him get those worked up, or Ms. McLeod, whoever we need to. So that's my concern. So we meet tomorrow night, and then we got the special hearing next week.
In the packet that I'll pass out has a brief but a pretty good summary of how how that particular bill will affect public education. So I think it'll be very informative to the board members here, and I can do that before we leave tonight.
Do we have any numbers as far as in the past years, how many bills dealing with education have been proposed?
There's always a large number of bills, but talking to other board members from across the state, as we did, there were almost 500 board members at the breakfast Tuesday morning, and again from one end of the state to the other. And to a person, they all felt like this was probably the largest assault on public education that they had seen, as far as so many bills that were coming down the pike that were, if not an impediment, possibly a detriment to public education.
That's what
So,
would be the numbers, and then how fast they're trying to push us through. I just don't think it's giving anybody a chance to really understand what's going on.
I think the packet will do a good job of explaining the workings of them, and of course we can always go on Tennessee.gov and actually read the entire bill as it's presented. So that opportunity is available to all of us.
I think it's important to characterize what is going on legislatively. The limit on the number of bills that a legislator could put in place this year may have actually reduce the total number of education bills that are out there. But there's always that short list of the ones who really have legs. The issue really comes down to, we've been on a path of reform for quite some time, and this fall we were able to see a little of that reform kind of have a positive impact with the NAEP scoring. It's about how you take these issues of accountability and actually apply them into the classroom and really work toward a better educational process. Thanks to Mr. Odom, the central office, the administrators, and our incredibly dedicated faculties, we've been able to use this reform and have positive results. We weren't off track in the past, but we have really made some excellent gains, and very much to our credit. The problem with what we see now is there is a decided disconnect, a very definite disconnect between the public school system, the people who are working in the classrooms and in the administrative capacities, and the legislation that is being sent through this year. Lee Harrell, who we all know from the TSBA, he was there at the breakfast and described one circumstance where he was in a subcommittee meeting and the measure was put before the subcommittee. The motion or the suggestion was made, does anyone have any expert witness testimony to offer? And Lee said that he realized at that moment that he was sitting on the bench next to several lobbyists that were there for private interest. And he was the sole lobbyist there for the public schools. The number of lobbyists that are in our state capitol pushing an agenda to privatize and profit on public education is remarkable. It is notable. And Lee Harrell kind of cleared his throat and said, friends, it's time to take the gloves off, because it's not something that is accidental, it is intentional, and it is absolutely aimed at public schools. So this is a circumstance that's really somewhat urgent. Getting through this stuff is not necessarily easy, and deciphering what that bill is and what the motivation is behind it and those kind of things, that's a challenge for us. But I think it's a challenge that we have to step up to, because there are doors that are being opened, there are lines that are being crossed that can truly have long-term impact on public schools. Mr. Odom, we've talked a little bit, but do you see the threat as that dramatic?
Absolutely, yes. I've not seen anything like this in my career.
In the term that I believe that we need to use in the future, rather than saying privatization, is for-profit.
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 That's exactly what it is.
That is the bottom line, for-profit.
And it shouldn't be surprising to us that we see that, from a region of the country where we've privatized prisons, we've privatized health care, but we've seen both of those things increase in cost. And here is something that we have to have. It is essential for the good of our citizenry to have public education for every student. And what is failing to be considered as we look worldwide at different comparisons is that in the United States of America, the public education system is there for every single student. We educate, we say that from 3 to 22, we have students that are in our system with all manner of challenges, capacity and incapacity. And it's absolutely essential for public education to continue to be something that we revere and respect. And it's not that way right now by many. One of the interesting things that one of the Murfreesboro City School Board members pointed out was the mere attendance at the school board breakfast yesterday morning. Of our Rutherford County delegation, we had one that was in attendance. So connecting to the elected officials, again, Lee Harrell said, they're just not afraid of you.
Well, let me make a comment to that, Mr. Holiday, right quick. The reason, and you probably know, the reason we didn't have but one, primarily you representing
When
this.
he was talking about it,
Oh, no, no.
Okay, I thought you were talking about the school
No, the
board, okay.
legislators.
Okay,
No,
okay.
we're fine there. But the legislators, we
No.
only had one of our legislators who
Okay.
came to meet over nearly 500 school board members from across the state.
That was, and the only reason I meant, I misunderstood you, but the reason we, you know, I told Ms. Michaels, I don't think we need to participate. You know, and I've been on this thing for years. Went down there for years. You know, I'm like a lot of you. I don't work, I don't make nothing. It's that simple. So why should I go down there and we don't have any legislators there? That's, to be honest with you, that's why I didn't go. And I didn't recommend any of us go, because if we're not gonna have anybody listen to us, and why go? Yeah, I mean, I don't know any other way to put it. So,
I mean, it was on deaf ears yet last year while I went down there, and like I said, there wasn't that many of them there to talk to start with, so, if there's nobody there to listen to us, we
There-
all waste our time.
Dare I ask, who was the legislator that did come?
Since you asked, Senator Tracy was in the room.
Thank you.
And Representative Dawn White sent us a text message that she had been held up, that her intention was to be there with us, but she was not able to be there. And we pursued some of the other representatives in their offices. It's not something that, you know, it's not something that we can get frustrated with and walk away from. We have to go battle these people, because the message that public schools are important and that vouchers will not work, and that the public education system is not just a civil right, but it is just fundamental to our nation's security. That is a message that we've got to get out. The conference that the board was kind to send me to for the federal perspective, it highlighted the fact that 17% of America believes that public schools are a success. Only 17% of America believes that public schools are a success. However, if you ask them, how about your school? 71% say my school is doing just fine, but public schools are in trouble. And that discrepancy between 17% that say public schools are off track, that's something that we are kind of failing in a war of perception. And David Pickler, who is from Tennessee School Boards and is currently the National School Board Association president, his mantra is that we are going to build an army of advocates for public schools. And we're going to change that national perception and maintain that public schools are not only the right choice, but they should be the best choice for the citizens to find education. 71% think that their school is just fine, but public education is broken. That's something that we've got to address. He revealed to us yesterday in the breakfast that they have gotten Sal Khan to be a spokesperson for that advocacy campaign, as well as Montel Williams and Irving Magic Johnson. And so we're talking about a nationwide advertising blitz, Business Week magazine. We're going to make sure that public education is on the forefront, and it's because of what's happening in Tennessee. I mean, that program is from David Pickler from the state of Tennessee, leading the National School Board Association.
Well, and it's our responsibility as a board to get that message out too, and that's using every opportunity that we have in this system to communicate that that there's legislation out there that will be bad for our children and also be bad for our employees.
And
That will eventually affect
Are we allowed to
employees.
Put that out on the web?
So we're gonna talk about some opportunities possibly. about that, so.
Is the upcoming rezoning meeting an opportunity to maybe begin to help educate?
I think,
Citizenry, of course, right now, the biggest issue with them is the rezoning. It's not, and they don't know what's going on, much behind their backs, as most legislation is done, but this legislation is not being written locally. There is a large industrial entity out there that wants to consume the funds that are used for education. And, you know, the trouble with contracting out is once you do it, then they have you over a barrel, because they have all your facilities, and when you need something, then the funds aren't there. They need extra funds. So it's not a good process to look at, to turn your, you know, I mean, we've got great teachers, and this community is responsible for its own education. We want to centralize decisions of that nature. So we need to look at how do indeed we get the word out. And a week late, a week from now, it's too late, really.
but, and I agree, we just got to get something to our people, and how we get something else to the general public, you know, I don't know, but we need to move forward with it. Before, I'm gonna let Mr. Oldham, and we'll carry on if you want to, I'm gonna let Mr. Oldham go over some of this stuff right quick, if everybody's agreeable to it. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I guess one of the most disturbing things to me is with our director here, the knowledge he has, with the system we have, the staff we've got out here, professional people, is how often our legislators come to him and ask him, or him or her, whoever we got out here, find out what's going on with education. And I've already asked him, and I'll let him give you the answer if he wants to, but just in a nutshell, not very often. So decisions are being made down there without, I feel like, without consulting the people in your own backyard. And the system we've got, I think we've got one of the top systems in the state. I know most of us have seen a large majority of the systems, and we know what we got. And I would hope they would come to us for some answers on some of this stuff, but it hadn't happened. So we're left to just move forward and try to do what we think's best for education. And so if it's okay, we'll let Mr. Oldham just hit these.
I'll hit them real quickly. Number one's been taken off notice. You mentioned that the limited number of bills, it's a biennium, so what time legislators can do, Mr. Holliday, basically, is they got 15 each year or something, I think. So it comes out to more than you would think. So that one's off notice. Number two is sponsored by our representative, Rick Womack. This may be something you want to do for teachers. It may be we actually built some of this in our teacher schedule, and this would, once again, ask the state, actually pass a law rather than the state board, that'll be based on individual teachers' years of service, their degree and experience for at least up to 20 years, and also recognize advanced degrees. You remember in our plan, we did put in and combine some, but this would put it back in the state statute. So that's probably a positive one for your teachers. Number three there is correct testing and demographic data. After the TCAPs and the course are taken, you receive that data back. The state has not been allowing you to go in to correct if you see something was read incorrectly, was wrong. To do it, they cut it off. Several last year, they actually let Davidson County redo some, denied Williamson County's request. So this is why Williamson is really worked up over this one here. But there's nothing wrong with giving 10 days to go back and let's try to clean up the data. If we want the truth, then let's clean it up and get it as good as we can. So that's a good one. I didn't see a problem with number 4. You're already doing this. It's a good thing across the state, but it brings in the bullying, the cyberbullying, that sort of thing into it. put it in statute and you revisit it each year to see if you need changes in it. So that one looks okay. The number 5 there would allow legislative bodies, in our case the county commission, to line item veto administration spending of the school district's proposed budget when the administrative spending exceeds 10% of the proposed budget. The problem with this is we do not know, for example, they can change that what goes into the 10%. Ours is 8.27%, right? We checked with the latest from the state, but that even includes in that 8.2% the trustees commission, which is 1.9 million of it is the trustees commission. So by changing the definition of what's administrative, you certainly change this drastically. Number 6, again, this allows the expenditures again to line item veto. This is a direct attack on TSBA, TOS, and other groups. I mean, if something like this passes, the people that will be down there doing the lobbying is the ones that Lee Harrell and others encountered. It's the people from California that are here doing the lobbying. The $500,000 plus is being spent to hire lobbyists from out-of-state entities in Tennessee this year. So this would, in effect, if this were done and you could not do anything to try to TSBA, TOS, other groups like that, leaves it to the mercy of whoever comes in. So that's one we'd certainly be interested in. The textbook one here is one that the way this is written, the problem with this is anybody that lives in Rutherford County could ask to be a member of the textbook review committee. And the only criteria is that you're a member of Rutherford County. I mean, you could have 500, you could have 200, you could have 30. Now, you as a board would still have the right to do that, to make a choice, but the size of the committee here is without limit. And so when you're in a 41,000 pupil school district, this could be a considerable number of people that you might be trying to get in. Well, the ideal committee is 5, 7, or 9, and we're talking about here could be any number. Okay, number 8, I think, is one, this particular one is one that's probably one of the most scary, Senate Bill 0677 by Gresham. This is a physical tracking, state tracking and accountability report, STAR report. Every school district, every school across the state would get a STAR number from 1 to 5. If you're 1 to 2, there's a increasing, I want to say sanction or increasing power from the state to control your district. I was told by a state legislator yesterday that if you had some schools involved in it or a district involved in this, that if the Commissioner of Education could say, Wilson, I believe Cannon County needs some of Rutherford County's money, and could send it up there. This legislator literally told me that the way this law is written, that they could go to the county commission and say, County Commission, you've got to put X dollars into this for funding this physical equity in the schools. But then again, what it does is take away any local control. It amazes me when we complained for years, and the same legislators that have complained for years that Washington takes our money and tells us what to do with it, that we're seeing our state legislators want to tell local school districts, you are an elected board, elected by the people to represent the people of Rutherford County. You deal with the budget day in, day out, week in, week out. You know it. You know the needs. You look at the scores. This is exactly what we complain about Washington doing. The state legislature is now trying to do to local governments and local school boards. So that is probably one of the most damaging that I've seen of all of the bills that are down there.
Anybody got any comments in regards to this?
I think we need to follow up with this one here and make sure we're doing our jobs and letting our legislators know that we're going to support this at all.
It just, this one just gives the Commission of Education just incredible arbitrary power.
It does.
And that is, to me, that's frightening.
It can, perceptually, it can eliminate the board, the director of school.
Well, this
That's
legislator
what
told me,
happens
we
if-
won't
if
need
possible.
you
That's right, that's
or
right.
the school board.
Now, you know, you may still be paid, but you won't be doing anything. You get my drift?
No power.
I mean, it's just, it's unbelievable that people who
Well, they have
don't
a
know
problem.
how to milk a cow, pardon me, people who don't know how to milk a cow would go into the barn early in the morning when they need to. I would be useless trying to do that.
They're already having a problem with the state schools that they're already having to manage. And they're wanting to give one back to the one county that I know. And the county doesn't want it back. And so it's not good for us, or good for anybody, but if they're wanting to give back, then they ought to go clean up the one school they have and get that school up and going. That's a state school and state operating.
The
Number
achievement school, the achievement school district is what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. Number 6 here, and the attack on the lobbying expenditures. This is the bill that Lee was talking about there in the subcommittee, and the expert testimony. I mean, who would propose a bill of this nature? Someone who, on a best case scenario, someone who was looking out for fiscal conservative perspective and wanted to make sure that the school was spending money on things in the classroom. That might be a perspective. And yet the expert witness testimony that was suggested, would you like to say anything, were all individuals who were there representing the school voucher proposal. And so this just seems retaliatory. It really does. Couple it with Senate Bill 2523, which is not on here, but it's on the information that Wayne will give you. 2523 says that if you are not a citizen of a direct constituent of the legislator, then you have to register as a lobbyist in order to speak to a legislator that is not yours. That is what Senate Bill 2523 says. And that is just a strange, absurd proposal that says to me that legislators are not willing, not interested in listening to the people that are going to Nashville to speak to them about these very important issues. We have citizens from Rutherford County who are speaking out about the accuracy and the appropriateness of textbooks. Are they correct? We're not asking for them to be something extraordinary. We just want them to be factually correct. And they don't want those people coming in and bothering them. That's what Senate Bill 2523 suggests. On a national perspective, Senator Alexander welcomed the several board members from Tennessee into his office, and I was fortunate enough to be there with him. And he suggested that a national school board was one of the threats that he is actively working against. A national school board that would place the Secretary of Education as the superintendent of schools for the nation. And in so much as we have not reauthorized the Secondary Education Act, Elementary and Secondary Education Act, ESEA, as we have not reauthorized that, and we continue to work with a negotiation between the Secretary of Education in Tennessee and the Department of Education for this waiver system, it is as if the Department of Education has that authority right now, because reauthorization of the ESEA Act would put in place the rules and standards for funding from the federal government. As it is right now, that all of that is set to the side in favor of a waiver. As long as the current administration is with the Senate, they say, we just have to keep that reauthorization off the table, and we continue to have our people in the Department of Education negotiate these things for the rest of the country. I think to myself, in history, a congressman like Tip O'Neill, or somebody like that, would have never just shirked the responsibility of one entire branch of government. If we stand still and do nothing, then the executive branch can rule without any kind of check or balance. And in effect, that's what the Senate is doing right now, by not taking up a bill that is already passed through the committee, but is standing there waiting for a full Senate vote. The House has passed a bill on reauthorization. The Senate has passed it through the Education Committee, but the Senate will not put it on the floor for reauthorization because they hold the influence already. It is such a threat.
You know, for our constituents, people's watching on television and all, if you like big government, then you're gonna love what our legislators are proposing this year, because it turns it over to people above this area. If you believe in local control and local contact with your representative, then you will not be happy with the bills that you and I are looking at this evening.
I will say it tomorrow night as well because it bears repeating, but the most important thing to note about this is we have not sent, in Rutherford County, in this room, with this school system, we have not sent any legislator to this battlefield unprepared. We educate at a higher standard with a greater success, fiscally responsible, over $1,200 below the state average for expenditure, and we just ask that our representatives represent what we're accomplishing here in Rutherford County. I don't think that's too much to ask of the people that we elected to represent our interest in public education and what we're doing here in Rutherford County. There are challenges elsewhere in our state, elsewhere in our nation, and those challenges probably need attention. But those challenges are not something that we are facing here in Rutherford County. We're trying to figure out how we're going to continue to respond to the growth in Rutherford County, continue to supply the businesses that are coming to Rutherford County with highly qualified students upon graduation that are ready to work in their factories, ready to work with the employers that are coming here. And all of that is in jeopardy if they turn their back on what we're doing so successfully. We have to be the face of public education if no one else will.
Well, again, we have to take that opportunity to get our message out there and to remind our stakeholders, our employees, our citizens that Rutherford County and the state, especially over the last 5 years, have made tremendous strides in improving the educational environment here in Tennessee. The NAEP information proves that in just by itself. Mr. Odom, I've heard you when Common Core has been talked about, and there's a lot of conceptions or possibly even misconceptions out there. But the point you keep making is the standards are there. The improvement is coming from the standards, and we just have to find that opportunity to basically get on our stump and let everyone know that things are moving forward, things are improving, and you just don't make change just for the sake of change. And bringing in for-profit to a public system, I think, is a huge mistake and error on their part.
Let me just see if the board's in agreement. Because I'd like to get something rolling. I'd like for you to lead your stuff this evening.
Yes,
the
sir.
Board members. I've got 2 of these items, possibly 3. I think we're probably in agreement with that. I would like to, with the board's permission, or if the board's in favor, to have Mr. Reed see if he can get something worked up. I don't know if you can do it by tomorrow or not. Is number 8. One Mr. Odom mentioned to really have a real effect on us. Number 6, as Mr. Holliday pointed out. I believe number 5, the uncertainty of number 5 would possibly be another one. Number 7, I'm just looking at them, I've just made some notations, I don't think, I don't know who in the world could vote for that, but, who in the world come up with something like that either, so, I don't think that we have to be too concerned with number 7. Well, if it does pass, the board still's got to, say so on it, so, those 3 primarily, unless, and we could have Mr. Reed work on some more after tomorrow night or whatever, the information you provide us, if we want to do some additional stuff. But I think, right now, these, primarily 6 and 8 will have a great effect on us. And 5 with the uncertainty of that, percentage too. I mean, if, they got 10% here, what if they make it 7%,
I think after I give out the package, Mr. Chairman, there may be, maybe 2 or 3 more that this board may consider being a true detriment to education, and may want to add that to the list.
Okay.
Think about something positive too, that might, not just complaining about something, but positive, like number 2 there, your teachers would love it.
Well,
Just think about something, if we could do a little bit of both.
Yes.
I think that you've really looked at the whole picture.
Well, the
And we
packet will describe, all, and I may have miscounted, but the packet will describe and give a synopsis of all 79 bills. So you've got some light reading to do, lady and gentlemen.
Do you want it, for right now, do you want to add number 2 with it?
In a positive sense, I think that's
Correct.
appropriate. Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
And there's other positives,
Correct.
positive
There
ones
are.
too.
I'm just saying for right now, 'cause
Yes, sir.
I need to, because I'm sure Mr. Reed will have to do one on each one.
Yes, sir.
And, we get something rolling on this thing, because I think time is, important. And, then whatever we decide tomorrow night, we'll have to see how we can incorporate that to get it where it needs to go.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I know we have an incredibly involved agenda. It is longer than typical, and tomorrow evening we'll have potentially visitors as well as those that we want to recognize and honor. Nonetheless, this is an important issue, and we need to highlight it in front of our public, and if there are parents or others in attendance, I was wondering if it would please you if we could insert a discussion of pending legislation just above item 11 in the agenda. We'll be making some revisions to the agenda for that recommended approval to send to the county commissioners, but if we could insert that as well, perhaps some of those folks would stay and hear some of this concern. It is so important that somehow we connect to the parents and constituents and get this message out.
Yeah, I'm good with it. Where'd you want to?
Well, we have old business, and I think
Correct.
procedurally we should probably, address that first, and then right after number 10, before number 11.
Okay. Can you make that change, Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Everybody good with that?
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Odom, I believe you've got another item or 2.
You have an 8.5 by 14 sheet. We go Tuesday to Health and Ed for the Eagleville edition. We've done some calculations based on recent projects, that sort of thing. So I think tomorrow night we may put a motion on there that you authorize us to take this to the Health and Ed as our proposal for the Eagleville project. So you can look that over, very similar to what we had before, but a little bit. One other thing that you might find interesting on this sheet too, I did give you the 5th month, excuse me, ADM report. At the end of the 4th month, we were 2.9% above 1 year ago. We are now 3.1% above for the 5th month, and 1,225 students instead of 1,148. The total population is not up that much, but I think what it says to us, for one thing, Mr. Zago and I talked about this, I think we're holding on to our high school students and our people. First semester's tough on those kids that may not have enough credits. I think with, again, our night schools, our online credits, our 7 periods with the interventions that they're doing in our high schools now, we're doing a better job of hanging on to students, and I think you'll see some changes in the graduation rate. Bear in mind, graduation rates are 4-year graduation rates. So it takes a while sometime for it to show up, in a large quantity. But I think we're seeing that difference. But that's your latest numbers, which goes through January 28th, I believe.
Mr. Odom, when you go, and pardon me, this is a set-up softball question. When you go to the Chamber of Commerce and you report that we have 1,200 additional students coming into our schools, a reflection of an increased population coming into our county, what does the county commission tell you that employers find attractive about our county?
The education and the job market potential. I had the opportunity, Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce is working with an outside organization about marketing Rutherford County to other employers. We're talking about can we now market ourselves as something that might be a national headquarters for a large company or something like that, to really white collar and that sort of thing. So Dr. Linda Gilbert and myself sit with 2 individuals from out of state that were listening to this. And the gentleman turned to us and said, I can tell you, and they'd had business people from all over Rutherford County, other people involved, said, I can make this statement to you. And he turned to the lady, he said, everybody that has come in and talked to us about Rutherford County, when we asked them what is some of the real highlights, some of the very positive things for Rutherford County, he said every one of them said education. And I think that is one of the marketing things for Rutherford County. And people realize that.
Absolutely.
That's why we do not want to disassemble it.
That's right. That's right.
Anybody else? Let me just say, I think tonight was a good discussion. Something that I think as a board we need to discuss. I guess, I don't know if I apologize or not, but for being a little bit long tonight, but I think it's important that as a board representing the citizens of Rutherford County, that we try to do what's best for the citizens of Rutherford County. And I think we've been involved with education as board members. I like to say we pretty well try to know what's going on, not only local level, but state level, national level. And I think it's our duty to stand up for it. So I appreciate everyone's comments tonight, and look at the stuff Mr. Blair gives you, and we'll go a little bit more tomorrow night if we need to. So, is there any other comments? Nothing else, we're adjourned.